Welcome to the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside sunny and warm Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, where I'm sure it's warm, but not as warm as John Webster would like. John Webster, how you doing, my longtime friend?
Gary, I'm doing real good, man. A little bit under the weather, but I'm doing okay. Another great week in sports. Can't wait to get into it. You're right, it's not as warm as I want it to be, but we're getting there. Today, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals. We got the Knicks and the Spurs coming up. Had some rumblings going on yesterday in the NFL. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're
Yeah.
going to talk about the College Baseball World Series, how the world is upside down with a couple teams already at home. And we'll wrap up with my dear, dear friends, the Baltimore Orioles. But Gary, the NBA playoffs are here. We have the New York Knicks against the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio defeated OKC in 7 games. It was a great game on Saturday night, 111 to 103. What's going to happen, man? Talk to us.
Well, first of all, congratulations because you picked both conference finals and I didn't. So, I mean, it's impressive. I think the big thing is we got the series that everybody wanted in essence, maybe a year ahead of time, because anybody that predicted the San Antonio Spurs to be at this point in Wembanyama's second, I guess you could say his second year, they would be lying to you. I'll just go ahead and say that. And anybody who's a Knicks fan who would expect the Knicks to be in the finals at this point at this season probably is lying to you too. But here we are, biggest media market versus possibly the sport's biggest star. And if you're at NBA headquarters, man, you're like a pig in slop, happy as a clam, and again, I think it's great to see that because we might see the coronation of the next face of the NBA. And I know that might sound strange for a second year guy, but he came in the league with promise, with hype, was hurt his rookie year, and has basically shown himself to be MVP worthy. That and especially in the playoffs, especially in this past series. So this could be his crowning moment. At the same time, it could mark a return to glory for the New York Knicks for the first time in 53 years. John, it's hard to believe that not since Willis Reed and Clyde Frazier and Dave DeBusschere and Bill Bradley and Dean Dean the Dream Meminger and all those those Knick teams in the early
Hey,
'70s.
hey, Gary, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure,
Please don't forget the
Earl the
man.
Pearl Monroe.
Please continue.
Okay. I was going to get to him, Earl the Pearl, who is near and dear in our hearts as a former Baltimore Bullet, and probably the first flashy player I remember seeing even before Dr. J. But of course, the team of Patrick Ewing, our former our former Georgetown cohort. Patrick Ewing played for all those years, so a lot of hype with this series, and I believe it's really going to come down to two areas, John. Really, Wembanyama versus Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. How do they defend him? How do the Knicks defend Wembanyama at seven? I think it's what 7'4". How do you stop a guy who's that big with an 8-foot wingspan, who is agile, who is athletic, who is rangy on both ends of the floor? He can shoot the three-pointer. He is a threat in just about every area you can think of. He can even run the break. That is going to be hard to defend. I do think that the Knicks have enough of the aircraft carriers that you're talking about, maybe in Karl Anthony Towns, who, by the way, also likes to shoot the three. And I guess at times he can run the floor as well. But you're talking about a whole different guy, a whole different type of player in Wembanyama. And it's really going to be a team effort to slow him down, maybe try to push him out. Maybe Towns being a little bit thicker. I think maybe he can body up, and that's the thing. You got to body him up on defense, and in essence, you got to kind of go at him and show you're not afraid to go at him on offense. And it's a challenge that OKC handled for 3 games, but couldn't come up with it in Game 7, and it's going to be a challenge for the Knicks. Just so you know, I'm going to say it right now. I'm picking the Spurs in 6. I hope I'm wrong because, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I grew up as a Bullets fan, but the Knicks were like my secondary team, and because of the players that we just mentioned, and especially Earl Monroe. But I do think the Spurs are just really it's their moment, and sooner than expected. But you got to take it, just like OKC took it last year.
Gary, you make some really good points, man. I guess a question I would have for you, the role players for San Antonio, how do you think they'll do in this round?
Oh, wow. Getting out of the Western Conference, I mean, needing a lot of games to get out of the Western Conference, they needed those guys. If you're talking about De'Aaron Fox and Castle, and there's probably a guy, I guess, what is it, McCain? What was he? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll just say De'Aaron Fox and Castle, in particular, guys who can shoot the three, who nailed clutch threes and were great ball handlers, gave support to Wembanyama. Those are the guys. I mean, it's a lot to contain. I don't know if San Antonio is really that deep, but the guys, if they go 7 deep, they get a lot from those 7 guys, 7, 8 guys, I should say, who know their roles when they come in. And they have shown in these playoffs, especially in the last series, how well they can support Wemby and feed off of him. Because as much as he can do with the ball, he's also he can see things, I guess to say at that size, he can see where guys are going and get the ball to them. And I think that was really the biggest thing in against OKC in the Western Conference Finals, is that he was a facilitator as well as a recipient, and that's a lot for any team to go against. Having said that, John, I think the Knicks have just as many role players who are hot. Let's not forget, they come in with an 11-game winning streak. Say what you will about the Eastern Conference maybe being, inferior, whatever, to the Western Conference, but the Knicks still won a conference as a number 3 seed, and they won 11 straight games in the playoffs. They come in rested. That might mean rust. At the same time, again, at some point maybe it catches up with San Antonio, and maybe the Knicks will be have fresher legs. We'll see tomorrow night. But again, it's I'm not going to say it's an evenly matched series, but the Knicks bring just as much to concern San Antonio with as the Spurs concern the Knicks with.
You made up some great points, man. San Antonio's a really scary team, Gary.
Very.
They play very well. They're really tough. Wembanyama is the future of the NBA. Great player, even now. He's only going to get better. You have players such as Stephen Castle and Champagne. Also, you have Harrison Barnes, and you have Dylan Harper. Cornette, Cornette's one of those role players. He made a key block on Chad Holmgren the other night. You
Mm.
know, the thing I like about San Antonio, they're well rounded, and they're a typical San Antonio team for the last 25 years. Yeah, you have Tim Duncan, but yeah, you also have Manu Ginobili. Yeah, you have Manu Ginobili, but you also have Tony Parker. For a while, yeah, you had Tony Parker, but you also had Kawhi Leonard. This is a team like this as well. Tim Duncan was the aircraft carrier. He was the main show. But he
David
had great.
Robinson too.
Well, hold on. I'm getting to him. Before
Okay.
Tim Duncan, you had David Robinson. He was the main show, and but you had Sean Elliott around him as well, and Steve Kerr. Tremendous team. And this team is tremendous. They're built the same way. It is a program, Gary. We talked about it before. They are a well-oiled machine. Gary, I totally respect you, man. You saying San Antonio in six. My goodness, man. They are a juggernaut and they are tough to beat. However, I have the Knicks winning in seven. And I tell you
Wow.
why. Yeah.
John, I am pleasantly surprised to hear you say that, but I love to hear.
Okay. Well, let's look at it. You usually tell me when I'm doing stuff like that, you know where I'm going, Gary. I'm surprised I surprised you that time. But this is what I'll say. Wembanyama is very good. You have to be strategic with what you're going to do. I think one of the biggest strategic moves the Knicks have is Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns is very effective shooting the three, and he's also shown his prowess in the playoffs of being able to pass. Both of those facets he's going to do away from the basket. Who's going to be checking Karl Anthony Towns most of the time? Wembanyama. Where is Karl Anthony Towns going to be? Out away from the basket. That takes Wembanyama away from the basket. So the next part of this equation, a key part to this for the Knicks is going to be a guy by the name of Brunson. He's going to be the straw that steers the drink. I do not see on San Antonio's team somebody that can effectively and continually stop Jalen Brunson. Darren Fox is going to get a chance with them. I know they're probably going to harper on him. They may even try Castle on him. The thing that they really need to avoid, and they won't be able to avoid it, they need to avoid pick and rolls where Wembanyama ends up on Brunson. That's going to
Yeah.
be a problem because he's even further away from the basket. And now Karl Anthony Towns is roaming around by himself for a snowbird, a dunk, what have you. Also, I think Josh Hart is going to be a key component. Last time, well, some of these games, when Wembanyama has checked him during the season, Josh Hart's going to have to knock down some of these shots. He's going to have to be a factor. I think he will be a factor. I think, they're going to give him some shots, and he's going to have to do like he did in the Cleveland series. He's going to have to knock down some shots. OG Anunoby, he's a energy player. I think he will continue to be an energy player. Shamit's going to come off the bench and he's going to hit some shots for you. I just think as a whole, the Knicks have more. And I think the Knicks will beat them. I won't say seven. I'll just say the Knicks will beat them. I don't want to really say how many games right now, but I think the Knicks will beat them. And a lot of people look at this because the West is a stronger conference, but I think they are underselling how good the Knicks are. You have also Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson is hurt. He's broke his finger. He has a cast on it. No disrespect to Mitchell Robinson, but he's only going to get me 4 points.
Right.
So, and his
It's,
foul shooting
it's
his foul shooting may improve with a cast on it. So, um, and again, no disrespect to him, but I like how he plays.
not at all, man.
I like how he plays. He brings it on the defensive end, and that's what I still need, his defense. I just think the Knicks, they're going to go 8 or 9 deep. They can match San Antonio from that standpoint. And I think Wembanyama will be Wembanyama, but he's going to have some challenges. He's going to face some things I think he has not seen early in this series. Karl Anthony Towns, this is an opportunity for him to really showcase how he is a point center now. And I think he can really do some magic. And I'm just waiting to see how it's going to go. But I really believe the Knicks beat San Antonio. This will not be 1999. This will be 2026 with the Knicks winning. And then we can see, what I would love to see. I mean, I see Stephon Marbury at the games. I see Pat Ewing at the games. I see Walt Frazier. I see Bernard King. I see a lot of people at those games. And it's great. It's great.
You left out one.
Who is that?
Left out a celebrity. a certain celebrity.
Well, I mean the celebrities of that. I mean
I
Spike
know, but
Lee.
yeah, but
It's
I mean,
but
he's as much with them. I know what you're saying. I mean, you'll see
I,
Clyde. You'll
Yeah, I'm talking about. I mean, no disrespect to Spike, but I'm talking about the players, man. I'm talking about the old time players coming back. I
yeah,
I would love, I would love to see Earl Monroe come there because I love Earl Monroe. I would love to see Dollar Bill Bradley come in there. Phil Jackson probably can't come in there because they still remember how he set the franchise back as opposed to winning championships. So he probably can't come in there. Um, Carmelo Anthony had a great career there for a while. I would love if they could find a way to bury the hatchet. I would love to see Oakley come in there, man. That would be great if whatever issues there are, I don't know what they are, don't really want to know, and it's not what we discuss on the Daily Juice. But I would just love to see all of them be able to get together and have a great time. That's what I would love to see. So.
yeah. But two things. One player that you left out, who I always thought was probably the most unathletic looking player the Knicks had back in the 70s, besides Phil Jackson, because let's face it, Phil Jackson looked like Chet Holmgren out there. Um, John Gianelli. Remember that name?
John Gianelli. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. John
Yeah.
Gianelli.
Yeah. He was
Um,
just one of, I mean, again, you're talking about a role player. And it's ironic you mentioned that for the Knicks. Well, for the Spurs, but the Knicks have plenty of them, and like as you said, they can go eight or nine deep.
hmm
The X factor in this series, John, that we haven't really, and nobody's really talking about, is coaching. You mentioned San Antonio being kind of a program, a system team. The years that Pop coached them, and all the players that you mentioned, they distributed the ball well. I mean, you probably saw about at least four passes before they took a shot. They found the open man. Some called it boring the way that they did because it wasn't so much an attack as much as it was getting everybody involved. It's kind of the same thing, but this is a faster San Antonio squad. Everybody, knows a role, has a role that they can play and will ultimately play. But on the other side of the ball, the Knicks are, with Mike Brown as coach, he has been very good at adjusting on the fly and coming in with a strategy that he's going to pound you with over and over and over again. One trend, John, we've seen in these playoffs are teams going on these ridiculous runs of 15 to 20 points or more, and really just taking it out of making it out of control for the opposition. When Rick Pitino was at Louisville, he used to call it the boom. And I think you see a whole lot of that in these playoffs, particularly with the two teams that are about to square off in San Antonio. But Mike Brown is due. Mike Brown has paid his dues. And Mike Brown is, again, a guy who stepped into a very tough situation and has made that
hmm
team better, gotten them to a step that they couldn't under Thibodeau, who was an excellent coach, by the way. But he is a guy that comes in with a great plan and also knows how to adjust. He sees how things are going. And he gets the right guys in the right place. And he's able to not just get them to turn it up a notch, but if he sees something happening where a team is starting to make a run, he'll call timeout, kind of, get them to adjust, and then they'll shut it down. They did that to perfection against Cleveland in all four games, especially when they were down 20 points with 7.5 minutes left in game one. The rest is history.
I agree with you, man. I think Mitch Johnson is a very good coach, but I give the edge to the Knicks with Mike Brown. And I'll just say something I didn't say last week when you were mentioning Mike Brown. Oh, how Sacramento must miss him and DeAndre Fox. They let go of both of them a little bit too soon. But
Yeah,
it's neither
agreed.
here nor there. And You say San Antonio, I say Knicks. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's just ironic, John, because I would have thought you would pick San Antonio because you touted all of their assets in the last series, and I mean, yeah. You picked the Knicks. I thought you would pick San Antonio. You probably thought I would pick the Knicks, but I picked San Antonio. So it's going to be interesting. We kind of switch roles here, but as I said, I hope I'm wrong about this because my heart really is with the Knicks, but somewhere my big head is with San Antonio.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen, man. Hey,
Yeah.
man, they had some excitement yesterday in the NFL. Miles Garrett is going to the Rams. AJ Brown is going to the Patriots. What do you think?
Um, I think one, I love it for Miles Garrett going to a Super Bowl contender, which has a solid defense. I guess what the Browns will get Jared Verse in return.
Hmm.
That I think is kind of I don't want to say it's a wash because they're two different types of players. Well, of course, uh, Miles Garrett is probably the most dominant defensive player, in the league that we've seen. He had the sacks record last year, but Jared Verse is that kind of guy who's on the way up, and I want to say maybe it's a push there, but Garrett is far and away the best guy, and he really upgrades a good defense. I do think that you can make a case for the Rams being something of an early favorite next year. AJ Brown going to the Patriots. Only thing I can say about that, well, it's an upgrade, of course, for the Patriots, even coming off of a Super Bowl, but a Super Bowl appearance. But for Philadelphia, I think now you get a chance to see some other receivers shine there. You're minus some of the drama, and I don't want to get into that too deeply, but I think a lot of the chirping that was going on, or alleged chirping, because we don't really know what was going on in that locker room, but I think when you have those things that get out, about locker room friction, the chemistry was definitely lacking last year as opposed to the Super Bowl year. I think that was to be expected on the one hand because teams figure out how to beat you the next year. I mean, the Chiefs are probably the last team to repeat as Super Bowl champion. So it's hard to repeat, especially in the NFC. But it's going to be interesting now to see what happens with some of their other receivers, and how Jalen Brown, excuse me, not Jalen Brown, Jalen Hurts works without AJ Brown and involves everybody else. Whether their tight ends have a bigger role, whether it's a shorter game. I mean, there's so much potential now. I do think it's an upgrade also for obviously for New England because Drake May has a star receiver, and that was something I think he kind of locked in on a guy. I guess what they lost Stephon Diggs
Hmm.
after the season, so that fills one spot there. So again, and the most important thing is that he didn't go to a division rival. I think that's what Philadelphia did not want to happen with AJ Brown because I'd heard some rumblings. I didn't really believe them talking about Washington bring him in. I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't think that was going to happen. Or maybe even Dallas, and that was a recipe for disaster because, well, it's Dallas. I mean, and it's a fishbowl. Not so much because of any kind of drama or Dak Prescott or anything else like that, because it's Dallas and the profile. I think he can thrive in New England with a lesser profile, amazingly up there, as opposed to say a place like Dallas or some of the other teams that we heard about him going to. Guess what? It's just starting. With the June free agency. So stay tuned. That's all I can really say.
This is what I'll say to you, and then we're going to segue into the Baseball World Series. Josh McDaniels is the offensive coordinator. What do Wes Welker, Stephon Diggs, and Randy Moss have in common?
Speed and Hall of Fame careers, I guess.
All three were playing as when Josh McDaniel was the offensive coordinator, and all
Hmm.
three in their first year under Josh McDaniel had at least 1,100 yards receiving.
Now that I didn't know. That I did. I
So,
really did not know. But
so we'll see how that plays out. We'll see if the Patriots can continue on their way of being back. Now, speaking of being back, let's talk about who is not going back to the Baseball World Series. We're to the Super Regionals now,
mhm.
and the top ranked UCLA Bruins are home, and the second ranked Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck are home. Talk to us about it, Gary.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, sorry, sorry about the noise. Yeah, sorry about that, Josh. Don't know where that came from. Anyway, um, UCLA was that was a huge surprise. But one thing, John, about college baseball,
Mm-hmm.
with those bats, with those artificial turf fields, and I'm not talking about the outfield. I'm talking about the infields are artificial turf. It's a very fast game, and with composite and aluminum bats, it's a very fast game in terms of where that ball goes. And I can look locally at an example with Kentucky and West Virginia um, this past weekend, where Kentucky had scored 7 runs in one inning. They were up. They had scored 11 runs and then come back. West Virginia comes back and beats them 12-11 in walk-off fashion to force a deciding game, which they won on their home field. But John, the way that say grounders turned into base hits just because of how fast it comes off the turf and how fast that bat or the ball comes off that bat, and they can place it just about anywhere. And pitching, of course, being what it is, and in college, that you can get to a starter or you can be shut down by a starter, but if you get to that bullpen, eventually teams start to wear down, and they can play small ball and then set up the big one. Sometimes start off with big ball and win by small ball. And I think that's the thing that really, really makes the college World Series baseball so compelling, because you just never know. But UCLA, that was a huge surprise and a huge upset for them.
I agree, man, but it's exciting and I'm enjoying watching it. Totally am enjoying watching it. Tell us a little bit about the French Open. That's been some upsets there, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, the biggest, of course, was defending champion Coco Golf. Going out in one of the early rounds, um, and really by her own doing. A lot of unforced errors. Um, you had Naomi Osaka being knocked out by Sabalenka, and of course, Sabalenka is just who she is, especially on
Mm-hmm.
clay. And the good thing about Naomi Osaka is that she got to the fourth round. It was the farthest she's advanced. And I think any kind of talk about maybe her best years being behind her, I think she really dispelled those in this tournament, even though she didn't get to the quarterfinals. And and on a surface like that, which in my book is one of the toughest to play on, especially this year with the heat wave affecting the court in so many ways that they almost had to, they had to spray the court down, and because the
Mm-hmm.
ball was called too fast, and of course players we're getting tired very quickly. I don't know if you saw the men's match between with Francis Tiafo from PG
Mm-hmm.
County, and that his 5-set victory after being down 2 sets, which I thought was probably the most compelling match. But I think with the women, yes, Sabalenka is probably it's probably hers to lose. I haven't seen the latest results, but um, with Coco Golf out, now she can look forward to the Queens Club tournament ahead of Wimbledon, where I think she's got a chance. Now we see Naomi Osaka is on the way back and setting a fashion statement along the way. And John, how about the news that Serena is coming back?
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting, man. So we'll see. She's going to
At
play,
age 45.
yeah, play in a tournament. There was the HSBC tournament. So we'll see. That's great to have her back. So we'll see how that works out for her.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
I think
go
well, I just want to say, I think with her, I mean, as we've seen her body change and how she, I don't want to say quicker. I think she was kind of angling to get back into the game with that's again, with some of her athletic changes and such. And I think she's curious to see if she can win with a finesse game as opposed to, say, a power and placement game. I really am curious to see where that pays off because I think it was about a year ago when I saw her just kind of hitting the ball around, just playing around. I said, she still moves pretty good, and she's moving really a lot faster. And again, she kind of dropped hints as much as a year ago. So in one sense, I'm really not surprised.
it's going to be interesting, man. We'll see how it's going to go. And then before we wrap up, the Orioles just had a 10-game homestand. They went 7-3. Now they're on a 6-game road trip. Let's see how they balance this out, and let's see if they can continue on the path of going up and continue on some kind of consistency. So good luck to the O's as they start a 3-game series tonight with the Boston Red Sox. Gary, go ahead and take us home, man.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we couldn't get to the Washington Nationals, who are in second place in the East and at 500 in a way that, I think I said last time, it's been fun to kind of watch how well they've played. You talk about the Orioles in their 10-game 7-3 homestand, which was very impressive and very important for them in terms of making strides in that division. But we have the Orioles to look forward to. We have the Nationals and see what they can do and whether they can stay together and stay the course and make some inroads with that young roster. But John, we forgot about U.S. Open golf coming up this weekend. That's another one. And if you're a golf fan, this is really a challenge. If there was ever a thing in you'd like to use the term slobber knocker in football, basketball, contact sports, the U.S. Open is always geared up to be the toughest one because the courses are just demanding. We have one in our backyard at Congressional where they played some U.S. Opens, and it's it's going to be something of a slobber knocker among the usual suspects such as Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler, and it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top there. We have the Stanley Cup, John. We didn't get to that's starting up between Carolina and Vegas, and again, Vegas has been Vegas since they've been in the league. They have a chance to go after a second Stanley Cup, and I think it's their third appearance since coming in 2017, 2018. When they fell to the Caps in 5 games. So that's going to be interesting. Carolina, a team nobody really saw coming out of that division or out of that conference. So we've got that. We've got the women's college softball World Series going on. And we'll probably have something to talk about that next time. And hopefully by by next time, we'll know who's in the College World Series. So, John, so much to watch, and so little time to really get it all in. And of course, when we come back, NBA Finals, we'll break down probably the first 3 or 4 games of this series and see where it goes.
Hey, man, thanks a lot. Thank you all for watching. That's another great week in sports. This week, watch some United Football League, watch the NBA, watch the WNBA, watch the NHL, watch some soccer, watch some tennis, watch some golf, watch the college baseball World Series, watch the college softball World Series. But above all else, just watch some sports. Come back and see us. Take care. Bye bye.